And we are live. Carl Corazzini, Evan Marinofsky. We're brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. Again, use that promo code CLNS to get up to $100 deposit matched. Again, Prize Picks makes the game more fun. Go use that promo code CLNS. How about that game, Carl? By the way, that's Carl Corazzini, Evan Marinofsky. If you don't know us already, hopefully you've been watching every post-game show. But how about that, Carl? How about that game?
Yeah, I think that was the best played game of the series. I think it was entertaining. I think both teams came out in the first period really aggressive, really physical. I think the Bruins sat back in the second period, let Toronto dictate pace of play, and then in the third period, you just got an unbelievable performance from Brad Marchand and Jeremy Swayman. And I think at this point, you needed a performance like that from one of your leaders, and you got it tonight from Marchand, and a large reason why, if not like this, well, not the sole reason. Obviously, Swayman was great as well, but you needed that from him tonight, and a good win for the Bruins.
That was a good win. And, I think there were a lot of moments you can pick in this game that sort of were turning points, define it. I think your first point was the biggest. And I think my biggest takeaway from game three, was Brad Marchand came to play in that second half. That first half, there were a number of plays where I'm like, dude, shoot the puck. And I think that was how most Bruins fans and media and everybody were feeling after the first, period and a half, was just throw the puck on net. Up until that Trent Frederic goal, it was like Samsonov is shaky. You saw it on that Zacha breakaway on the shorthand where it just kind of snuck past him and went by the net. And it's like, just put the puck on net. And
Yeah.
Marchand was at the forefront of that, I thought, in that
Well,
second half, and he gets a goal out of it.
yeah, I think in the first two periods, I'm not going to speak to the second half of the second period, but I think there were at times off the rush through the neutral zone where Marchand just looked slow. Uh,
Yeah.
Getting caught from behind a couple times, movement of puck. And then in the third period, I think what you're speaking to is keeping the game simple. And I know there's a lot of emphasis on looking for the quality of the shot from the Bruins. And in playoff hockey, it's overtime hockey. Right? Like every shot's a scoring threat. And if it's a rebound and the puck goes in the corner, like I know all those stats about shots from the point and the likelihood that it goes in the net, but every shot that gets taken and there's a rebound, you're forcing Toronto to defend with their backs turned, right? Like they've got to go retrieve the puck, and that's where they're going to struggle. And the emphasis in the third period was low to high hockey, right? Forecheck, win your battles, get it to the point, get to the net front. And we're able to create at times, albeit I would still like to see it more in the first two periods. They created a more havoc in and around that area, and it leads to that third goal that they score right after Riley scores. Right, like you just put a little pressure on their D. Right, they have three guys behind the net, they get lost, and there's Marchand with obviously it's a great shot, but they've got to continue the rest of the series to put more pressure on Toronto's D. But yeah, that third period was quintessential playoff hockey. Put pucks on net and force Toronto to defend and force Samsonov to make saves.
That was quintessential. Like, that's how the Bruins win. That's how the Bruins are going to have to win and beat teams, is you forecheck the hell out of the opponent, try to pin him deep, and then, as you said, low to high, get shots on net on Samsonov.
I need to. No, go ahead.
What do you need? What do you need? No, what do you need?
I need to be fair, right? Like as you sit back and you kind of analyze game two, and not being fair to Montgomery, right? Like what Toronto did was hit the stretch pass the whole game. And what I was asking for is that the Bruins play that 2-on-2 aggressive forecheck the whole game. That is hard to do. And I don't think I explained that well enough in the last game. Like the 2-on-2 forecheck is typically it's a forecheck of urgency. Like you're playing from behind and you need to create turnovers. And that the way that Toronto played in game two, right, like forced them to play that way, but that's hard to sustain. And I think what the Bruins did a really good job of, they threw different looks at Toronto all night long, especially in the first. first and third period, they mixed up between an aggressive 2-on-2 and then that 1-2-2 where they sat back on top of Toronto's forwards, not allowing for quicker transitions, and they forced Toronto to have to think through that and see what forecheck the Bruins were doing. So I said bad job the other day making adjustments. Kudos to the Bruins, to their coaching staff, to the players for making the adjustments, not only game to game, but in the periods too. Like they did a nice job on the forecheck, at least forcing Toronto to have to think.
This is when we need you to get a whiteboard. We need to have a whiteboard that you can diagram this up. I think that would be just phenomenal. Or we need to have like a graphic for it.
I don't think
it would be perfect.
I don't think anyone listening at 10:01 p.m.
People are hyped.
I think in Toronto and Boston, I don't think they want to watch me do a whiteboard. That's no fun for anyone.
I don't know. I would. I'll say it, Carl. I'll watch it. I couldn't get over, again, you even think about Riley scores that goal. And, Lindholm kind of gets worked in the corner and then it comes back out and whether or not it went off Bertuzzi or Lindholm in front, I don't know, but it went in. And then 28 seconds later, you have a great forecheck by Frederick. Heinen wins his battle, boxes. I forget which defenseman from the Leafs he kind of boxed out. And then there's Marchand alone. And that is that third period to me. And then after that, there were still like 8 minutes to go or 7 minutes. I have it, under 8 minutes to go. They forechecked the crap out of him and they just pinned him deep. And, the Leafs had issues getting out. But then I think when they did go to the other end of the ice, Jeremy Swayman was there. And this was a really good game, I thought, from Jeremy Swayman. I mean, the two that get past, I mean, the second goal goes off a just kind of a fluke goal in front, goes off a body. That first goal was just, a breakdown in the neutral zone. Shattenkirk, which we can get into later on, doesn't really cover the far side. And, again, I just thought Swayman was phenomenal in this game.
So I think going back to your first point, talking about the goal 28 seconds later, I think it's clear that there was a game plan going into that third period of how the Bruins were going to attack Toronto, right? Like obviously you may hang your head there for a second, letting up that Riley goal, especially the way that it happened, right? Losing a battle out of the corner, a little soft on the wall by Pastrnak off the initial dump in, but to come off the face off, they knew exactly what they were going to do. And the Bruins were resilient. They took a little bit of a punch there and they came right back, got to their forecheck and established that behind the net. And then Marchand's in a soft area to put one. And obviously it's a great shot, right? Like you're going in a tight area over Samsonov's shoulder, but they established that they were going to forecheck the heck out of Toronto in that third period and put a lot of pressure on them. And they came right back after that goal. And that was great. And obviously, Swayman in that third period, especially late, made a ton of saves, sequences throughout the game where he was making 2 and 3 saves. I don't remember if that was the third period, the one on Bertuzzi there out in front of the net, monitor those guys. But, and this is me, I'm going right back to him again.
I was going to say, that was my next question.
Right back to him.
I am also going back to him. I don't know how you can go away from him. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they go with Ullmark. That's the thing. Like, it just wouldn't. I just think game threes are, this is going to sound dumb, so get on me for this, are big games in the playoffs. Game threes are huge games in series because it starts to really turn the tide. You come into Toronto, it's 1-1. If it's 2-0 in a series, a team can go up 3-0 or it can be 2-1 and it's a much closer series. This was a huge game. Now things become even more do or die. And I sound dumb saying that in a playoff series, but that's what it is. And I think, I heard Ty Anderson say it on Zolak and Bertrand today. Like, starting Swayman in game 4 is going for the knockout punch. Like, you're going for it. Because if Swayman stinks in game 4 for some reason, you can go to Ullmark in game 5. Like, Ullmark just played. If Ullmark is that bad in game 4, you can go to or if Swayman is that bad in game 4, you can go to Ullmark in game 5. So I am with you. I think you've got to go with Swayman in this next game because he is on another level right now against this Maple Leafs team.
And so what I would say to you is, and you look at the way that they constructed the lineup tonight, right? Like you take out Grzelcyk for whatever people think of him is a veteran, been through playoff series. You take out Lauko, right? Who else am I missing that you took out? Peak's hurt, obviously.
Peak's hurt, then that was it.
So you had to slot in some guys, but taking out Grzelcyk, you're showing that there's some sort of urgency, right? Like you wanted to put out your best lineup tonight. I don't think there's a reason why you shouldn't be urgent in net as well. Show everyone what your best lineup is. He's proven now through 3 games that he's locked in. Give him the opportunity in 4 in Toronto to steal you another game. Like give him that opportunity. I think he's shown that he can do it. I think right now, not that Ullmark is not capable. Obviously, he's a Vezina winner. Go with Swayman in game 4. And if you win game 3 in Toronto, you leave Toronto with 2 wins. Gosh, I can't say it right because you went up 3-1 last year and you lost.
Getting ahead of yourself. We're going back into the traps we set for ourselves last year.
I'm not saying anything about 3-1. How about go back to Swayman and see if you can steal one in Toronto on Saturday night.
That's exactly it. And that's the thing is like, and the other part is if you're concerned about rest, you have Thursday and Friday, no game. It's not till Saturday. So like, if you want to really give Swayman a little bit of you have that leeway period where you can do that. So I again, and I just think I think Swayman's now 5-0 against Toronto this year. It's just is incredible. And you just how poised he is and his angles. I'm not a goalie guru, but just how good he is pushing off that post. And I don't know. He shuts them down. I mean, Nick Robertson had that, not breakaway, but kind of a open shot off the rush. He just kind of gloved aside. And I just thought he was phenomenal tonight. And, again, it goes back to we talked about this after game 1, right? About whether you put Swayman back in for the next game. If you go to Ullmark in game 4, right? If you go to Ullmark in game 4, you're sticking with the goalie rotation. So you are opting to either stay up with the ship or go down with the ship that you've done all year. But now it's different. It's different now. It's the playoffs and it's one back to back. I don't think that's asking too much. It isn't asking too much. I know that.
Yeah, and that's been my frustration is, we've done it all along. It's gotten us to this point. This point is different. These are different games. You need your best lineup, and yes, they're very close. And myself personally, this is me as the Boston Bruins fan. I am a Jeremy Swayman fan, and I don't really have a technical reason why. I think there's a little bit more swagger to his game than Ullmark, and this is from my perspective. I don't know anything about Linus Ullmark. Just from afar, watching the game and hearing that interview. You're getting your start. Yeah, it's about time, right? I want that. I want that person in that wants to fight for it, right? I want a little bit of arrogance. I want a little bit of swagger, and I want to fight for that guy, right? And that doesn't mean that Linus Ullmark's not that guy. You just don't hear that from him in interviews, at least from my perspective. So I want him back out there. I want Swayman back out there in game 4 and try to steal one.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. And Toronto, they put up a stat on the broadcast. Toronto has not been great at home in the playoffs. And by the way, neither of the Bruins. The Bruins have not been amazing in the playoffs at home in the last couple of years. So I think both teams are just we don't even play on our home ice. I agree with you, and I think it goes back to just land the knockout punch, or at least go for it, right? And I also agree with you, it's the playoffs. You have to have a little arrogance. You want to own the net. And I'm not saying Ullmark doesn't. I think Ullmark definitely does. I thought Ullmark was fine. I thought Ullmark was good in game 2. But just given Swayman's success against Toronto, I don't know why you wouldn't go back to him in this spot. And again, I think, you look ahead, right? Let's just say Swayman's not great in game 4. You can go to Olmark in game 5, if you really feel the need. And then that gives Swayman another, couple days off. And I think there's no problem straying away from the rotation. As we said, going into the playoffs, it doesn't need to be a strict rotation. It does not need to be every other until game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. You can read and react to how the situation's going. And I think that would be why you would put Swayman in game 4. I have no problem with that. One thing that a lot of people in the comment section are talking about is those lineup decisions that Jim Montgomery made going into Wednesday night's game. And my first reaction was I didn't like them. I don't like messing with your top 6. It's only been 2 games. Moving Geeky up with Coyle and Marchand, moving Heinen down on that third line, moving Frederick to the middle, moving DeBrusk up. That's when you sort of, I don't like the anxious line changes. And on D, moving Grzelcyk out and leaving Shattenkirk in, I still don't think they won by doing that. Shattenkirk, to me tonight, was not great. I continuously am not impressed by Shattenkirk, especially in his own zone. The big thing that people are asking about is Lowry. Mason Lowry, first playoff game. What did you think of him tonight?
Yeah, I thought by and large he was fine. Right? I think what a lot of
people, I did too on this.
I think what a lot of people are looking at, Toronto just scores. He tries to make that backhand pass through the middle of the rink that almost gets picked off and is in the back of the net. Like that would have been the end of the game, and that would have been the end of his series for him. I think when you're playing against a team that is a puck possession team that has a lot of skill, you need to do one of a few things. You either need to get overly physical with the Bruins aren't, right? Like, or you've got to be able to close out on their forwards below the goal line in the defensive zone. I think that someone with his length and his skating ability, he can do that. Yeah, I do think first playoff game, nerves, overwhelmed. I think as you get him used to pace of play, he's going to be fine. Right? Like, do I think that he's a better option for you? Do I think he's a better option for you than Shattenkirk, Wotherspoon, and Grzelcyk? Yeah, I think he slots into your top 6 because of what he's capable of doing physically. I think the mental side, like you'll have to just play it by ear during a game and see what he looks like. I just think he's physically talented enough to play with Toronto. I think what some of the commenters are talking about, you're going to need to coach him along the way. He's just going to need guidance every time he comes back to the bench.
I think it was the second period he pinched in the neutral zone and kind of hung around there too long, and Matthews got in behind him and they had a 2-on-1. And I think that's sort of the trade-off you get with Lowry, right? It's like you have that, like the phenomenal pass up to Van Riemsdyk right after Toronto scored for a scoring chance. I think it was in the second period. So you have stuff like that, but then you're going to have some of those gaffes. And I think that's sort of something the Bruins will live with. Like, I think that's, I know that's been the MO out of Providence with him. It's certainly been the MO with him up here in Boston this year. Like, you're going to have those incidents. Can you afford it against a team like Toronto? Like, I think by and large, Lowry helps you offensively, and they need that in this series. And, you look at like the 2 defensemen who came in tonight, right? Wotherspoon and Lowry both do very different things. Wotherspoon's not seeing your top 4. He's a third pairing guy who's going to try to play those peak minutes. He had that early block. I thought he was done. I was like, where that hit him, I was like, he's done. That's it. Like, you got like 5 seconds of Parker Wotherspoon. But, again, do I think Lowry plays game 4? I don't know. Like, that's where, like, it wasn't overly convincing for him to stay. It wasn't overly convincing for him to go. If they feel Grzelcyk is, fresh and ready to go back in, like, you need, ideally for what Lowry brings, you want a puck mover. That's, because he was playing next to McAvoy. So that's what you want. And Grzelcyk's, Lowry's not going to get, I don't want to say thrown around, but Lowry puts up a little bit more of a fight physically, as you mentioned, whereas Grzelcyk's probably a little bit more of a safer option moving the puck out of his own zone. So I think to me, that's the trade-off. or that's the decision.
So I don't care who dresses. Like, you put your best six, whoever you think that is, whoever goes back there. And the one issue that the Bruins defense get into, it's the sense of urgency on the forecheck. You understand now through 3 games that F1 for Toronto is coming with a lot of pressure, and F2 is sneaking down, and so I think it happened to a Wotherspoon at least 2 or 3 times. Gets back to the puck, and then it's just stop. No, it doesn't move don't move your feet, stand there, and then it's a chip up the glass, and that's the same thing that Hampus Lindholm has done all series. There's a lack of urgency to retrievals. There's no deception, no shoulder check, and then it's a predetermined, I'm putting the puck up the wall. And then it leads to this sustained pressure by Toronto that, if you're out there against the right line, be it Matthews, Marner, which is a different story tonight again, those are going to end up in the back of your net. So whoever you think can get back there with urgency and make decisions to put forwards in position to have the puck not on the wall, like, that would be ideal. I think they did a better job in the first period, especially, of breaking the puck out. But then as the game wore on, it residing back to getting pucks off wall, and chipping them up the wall, and that's really hard as a winger. That's the worst thing in the world for someone.
I can imagine.
Oh man, someone like me, and especially that Toronto has pinched on everything, and so to be able to get the puck off the wall, take a hit, it's miserable. It's miserable. So they're gonna, whatever they did in the first period, right, which was a lot of weak side movement. It was a few reverses from Bruins D. They've got to do more of that, so they're breaking out a little bit smoother through their defensive end.
I agree, and so it's funny because the chips up the wall. Like, there are times, you're right, where kind of Wotherspoon just kind of stand there and throw it up the wall, and it's like, really, and again, it doesn't help anybody when he's doing that. And again, I think, let's talk a little bit more about defense here. Like I mentioned earlier, Hampus Lindholm. Hampus Lindholm, to me right now, and again, I was not there in Toronto. I didn't, snap my fingers and end back up in my house. I was not there tonight, but from watching on TV, he does seem like he doesn't have confidence with the puck. And that was a common thing last postseason. And what's funny is he actually had a really good game 1. We talked about this after game 2. He had a good game 1. But tonight in game 3, there are just times where he has the puck and he holds on to it for a couple seconds too long. And then, his guys start to be stationary and he doesn't know what to do with it. And I think there's too many of those times. I think in the corner, I expect him to have a better stick sometimes, especially because he's not super physical. So, like, typically a defenseman of his caliber, if they're not super physical, they're gonna have a good stick. And there are times he does, but like on that goal that Riley ended up scoring, that either went off him or Bertuzzi, he just couldn't track it down in the corner. And so tonight, to me, Lindholm was not a plus. What did you think?
Yeah, I think the pace of play has picked up on him a little bit, right? And I think exactly what I kind of just spoke about. I think the forecheck has gotten to him a little bit. And you talk about a lack of confidence with the puck. I don't think he lacks confidence with the puck, right? Like, as he's made his name throughout the National Hockey League, it's his first pass. It's his
I'm not saying, I'm just saying, like,
no, I know. I'm just saying, like, historically what he is a first pass, put pucks into forwards' hands, allow them to make decisions, be the second layer of attack. I think the pace of play has gotten to him, and if you look at stats, he's taking a lot of hits.
Yes.
And that will just wear on you. And that obviously an emphasis for Toronto. Obviously, you see that McAvoy and Lindholm have taken hits throughout the series. Obviously, McAvoy is more than willing to lay the body himself, not something that Lindholm does. I think now that's in the back of your mind, right? Like, that F1's being really aggressive. They're turning you inside out. So it's just become for him, I'm not going to make a high leverage play. Usually the high leverage play, and you'll see McAvoy do it all the time, it's he'll do a shoulder check He sees who's to the middle of the rink, and right, like the pass that Lohrei was trying to make, the Bruins have made that all year. McAvoy will slip into the middle, you're out of the zone. Lindholm's not even looking for that now. So I think it's the hits that he's taken throughout the series. I think that Toronto's been really aggressive on him, and the forecheck has gotten really fast. Let me just get rid of it. Let me retreat to my net. Let me play some sort of defense. And I think that's probably the thought process in his head. I don't think he lacks confidence with the puck. I just think he might not have confidence in his feet.
I could see that. There were some plays, though, even not going back for pucks, high in his zone, looking to make that, pass in the neutral zone that, the puck could hop over his stick or they just hold on to it for a second. And it's like, that's where it's like, just make the simple play. It's it's game 3. It's late in the game. Just make the simple play. Speaking of simple plays, our friends over at Prize Picks. Here's our good friend Connor Ryan, who is not with us tonight, but here he is talking about our friends over at Prize Picks.
Get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks, as you and the world's best players take the game to a whole new level during basketball and hockey's postseason. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with basketball and hockey entries today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Prize Picks has something for every sports fan, from basketball and hockey to League of Legends and everything in between. You can pick LeBron, Connor McDavid, and Jude Bellingham, all in the same entry. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Prize Picks even offers injury insurance so that your entries stay in place even if one of your players gets injured. For basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, Prize Picks will have your back and not count that as a loss. Prize Picks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and a huge selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. And with the Celtics season in full swing, there's plenty of opportunities to participate in Prize Picks. This week on Prize Picks, I'm selecting Jason Tatum for more than 30 points, Kristaps Porzingis for more than 2 blocks. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, use code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And now, let's get back to the show.
So I want to give a shout out. You gave a shout out last episode. I want to give one to this episode. To be here to give you guys the takes, I am missing my men's league championship tonight. Oof. So I think it's taking place legitimately right now because, prime time, 10 p.m., Wednesday night, Wellesley, Mass. I am missing it for this. So I'm here with you. Hopefully, if the game ends by the time we finish this, I have good news to report. So go Lizards. That's the name of the team. So hopefully the Lizards, Lizzie Hockey pulls one out tonight. So, I was a big part of the team this year, but I'm here with you guys. So you're welcome, everybody.
You're probably a big shot blocker, penalty killer type player.
Definitely shot blocker when I turn the puck over in my own zone. I did have a goal. I actually first shift, the first playoff game, I had a goal. So that was good. But so yeah, it was, that was just great. Anyways, back to the hockey that people really care about. Manny Paul Walker says, Evan, you should have gone to your game, to be honest. Well, you're not wrong. I did get that response from the team. I'll admit it. But it's interesting. I was looking at the stats when the Prize Picks read was going, and to me, we opened the show about Marchand, but that whole line had a good game. I mean, Marchand when he was on the ice at 5-on-5, they outchanced the Leafs 19-5. Okay. And that line as a whole, I think, was like 13-4. Geeky moves up, Coyle, Marchand. They went against that Matthews line mainly. I thought that Coyle line was good. And, again, I think that's kind of that's a style of line that you want in a game like this where, you're playing low in the zone. You're looking to forecheck hard. That's not a fast line by any means. Puck protection, cycle game, like that's what they were pretty good at. I thought tonight, I'm curious what you thought of that line, if you think they should stay together.
Yeah, I think third period, everyone in general, like the forecheck was better. Idea that they were going to play below goal line, go low to high. Do I think that they should stay together? Yeah, I'll say yes. You won the game. You stick with the lineup that got you there tonight. If you're going to, I think you're just going to be more consistent with what the forecheck looks like to suit the needs of that line. Right? Like if you are going to ask them to play below the goal line, to ask them to play with possession there, you've got to allow them to at least be a little bit more aggressive, to be able to allow them to force turnovers. If you force them to sit back, right? Like if you sit back and you're sitting on top of Toronto's forwards, that doesn't play into their strengths because, as you say, it's slow. And then when you're sitting on top there, you're consistently on your heels. And then that's when Toronto's going to play in transition. That's when they're going to have zone entries and zone time. And I guess it all depends on kind of what forecheck. I know that's tedious having to hear that, but played well tonight. Need a forecheck to suit their style of play.
I agree. Especially you're not like that line's not out, it's not faster than, like the Matthews line. That's not happening. No. But in terms of physical, and I think it also like the physicality of Marchand, and you saw it on that Frederick goal, which, we discussed right now, like, Marchand's tied up with Bertuzzi and they're just kind of jousting, and Bertuzzi of course dives, and you have that neutralized.
Stop it.
That was a dive by Bertuzzi.
Don't talk about dives if you're not willing to talk about Marchand and then Charlie McAvoy on Tavares at the end of the game, please.
Oh yes. Oh no. I'm not saying the Bruins don't dive. I'm talking about one situation here. The Bruins dive just as much. No, I don't know if it's just as much. I have to see the stats in front of me, but the Bruins dive. Do not like I'm with you on that.
Do they keep stats on dives in a game?
They should. That would be awesome if they did. That'd be so embarrassing. Like, guy leads the league in dives.
I mean,
that'd be like that's like a Jack Edwards stat. Like Jack would have that. Like,
they used to keep that because they used to fine players $2,500 for a dive if it got called for a penalty. So they must keep those stats somewhere, right?
It'd be cool. I haven't seen them made public, but it'd be awesome if they did.
Right.
You're gonna look up.
I interrupted you, so you should talk about Frederick's goal.
No, what I was going to say is like the physicality of what I think that the reason that Coyle line matches up pretty well with the Matthews line is Coyle's is good at shutting down Matthews, and the combination of Brandon Carlo there helps. But also Domi and Bertuzzi are physical pest kind of players. Marchand is certainly a pest and physical, and Geeky is physical. He has the size for it. So like I think that's a good matchup for the Bruins, and I was surprised. And there were some times where Sheldon Keefe got some mismatches, but I was surprised that the matchup stayed similar. I was surprised that the Leafs didn't try harder to go at Boston's bottom six. And I will say Toronto's Toronto's fourth line, that line with Reeves and Camp, they seemed to do some damage at times. And that was the same as game two. Like they certainly did. So again, I was just kind of surprised that Sheldon Keefe didn't try to go away from those matchups more. I can look at the numbers. I don't want to tank my Wi-Fi, but like, I don't think he didn't go away much from Zaka's line against Tavares and Matthews against Coyle.
Yeah, but they definitely won that matchup on defense. They were consistently had Marner, Tavares, Nyes out against Wotherspoon and Shattenkirk. Anytime they seem to step
yes.
Anytime they seem to step foot over the boards, Keefe had that line out there, and that was end resulted in at least Nyes' goal there in the second period that put Toronto up 1-0. So yeah, they may not have gotten the matchup, or maybe they do like the matchup for Matthews, for Marner in those situations against those lines, but they definitely won the matchup forward line against defense there in the second period.
I agree that, and I'll tell you, when, like you mentioned Wotherspoon and Shattenkirk, there were a couple times when Lowry and Shattenkirk were in their own zone, and you're just like, oh no. Like, and there was one, I think it was the second period where Lowry and Shattenkirk both went behind the net, leaving a Toronto, I forget who the Toronto forward was, just wide open in front for a chance. And it's like, ooh,
yeah.
But that is kind of one of the things, is that at some point those two are going to play together. And if you're stuck in your own zone with Lowry and Shattenkirk, like that's not going to be a great time.
Yeah, I wonder what the final numbers were for Shattenkirk. I think going into the third or somewhere in the third, he was still at 9.5 minutes for the whole game. I didn't quite see what he ended up with, but didn't really seem like he played all that much in the third period.
He played 8 minutes and 30 seconds of 5-on-5 time. The only person less was Johnny Beecher, and chances for when he was out there were 50%. So it was nine chances for, 9 chances against.
Okay.
Again, I was surprised Shattenkirk slotted back in, but I think Montgomery likes that. I think he doesn't want to move him off the power play. I don't think that's enough to keep him there. Like, if your reasoning for keeping Shattenkirk in the lineup is, well, he's on the power play, I don't know if that's good enough in a series like this too, where like, and again, Shattenkirk is a puck mover, but I don't know, like, people love bringing up the eye test. The eye test he did not pass the eye test right now, I don't think.
So I guess that lends a question. What's your top 6 moving forward? If you don't like the eye test on him, if we're not sold on Lowry one way or the other, and people have question marks about Grizzly, who do you play? Like, you got Carlo, McAvoy, Lindholm. Who are your next 3, and what are you going with then?
It's a great question.
That's what I'm here for. I'm here for great questions.
So that's your job. We're switching jobs. I'm the coach, and you ask the questions now.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm asking the question because I don't know the answer to it, right? Like, I think, I don't love Lindholm's game right now, but I think experience, understanding historically what his game's going to look like. Obviously, they trust him quite a bit. He's out the last 219.
Oh yeah, Lindholm's not coming out of the lineup.
Yeah, no, I know that.
But I mean, I think you could make an argument for him being on the power play. Like, and I know I mentioned him being not so great with the puck, but like historically, he's been pretty solid on the Bruins power play. If you were going to take Shattenkirk out, I think you could slot him in there. I think if you slot Shattenkirk out, you probably do. I mean, you do keep Lowry in the lineup. And then you try to roll with a Lowry Wotherspoon pairing, which is tough because they're both lefties, which is not fun, but they both play different situations. You would probably put Lowry potentially on a power play. Like, if you're going to keep Lowry in the lineup, and Shattenkirk isn't, you'd probably put him on that on the unit that Shattenkirk is on, and then you wouldn't put Lindholm on the power play. And then you have Wotherspoon there to kill penalties. I think Wotherspoon is the definite. I think Wotherspoon is in. I think for what he brings, the shot blocking, the meat and potatoes game. I know the puck moving is not great, but like, I don't know, that he's the closest thing you have to Andrew Peeke of the bottom 6 candidates. I mean, like, I would like to see Grizzly slot back in. I would. But, again, then like, so you move Lowry out. So then you'd have Grizzly and McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo.
Yeah.
And then you'd have
probably go Shattenkirk and Wotherspoon is my guess. I think you're going to stick with that right-left combination. I agree with you originally, the idea that Lowry didn't do enough one way or the other. Really didn't do anything terribly bad to pull himself out, didn't do anything great to keep himself in. I think as a young guy and watching how the Bruins have handled him throughout the year, I think he slots out. Grizzly comes back in. You keep Shattenkirk with Wotherspoon. That's your bottom end pairing. You have a second power play guy in Kevin Shattenkirk, and you're able to keep the left-right combos out there. I think that's probably the play that they do. And then you'll watch and see how game 4 goes to see if you put Lowry back in and hope at some point that Peeke maybe can get healthy. But what did we hear about him? You're on the inside. You're the journalist.
I think he's week to week. Last they talked about him, it was week to week. So again, like, not encouraging. You're probably more for the end of the series. I know they have Forbert there, but again, like, Forbert played 2 games in Providence. So you're going to thrust him into game 4 against the Maple Leafs. I mean, if he's healthy at some point, you probably do have to bring him back, and again, like, I know he was injured during the season, but like when he was in, it was not great. And so like, do you do you chance that? Now, he's not a puck mover. Like if he goes in, Wotherspoon comes, you would move Wotherspoon out. And then do you have Forbort and Shattenkirk? I don't love that pairing either. Like that scares me a little. So this is why like the Andrew Peak signing, the Andrew Peak trade was good. I just wonder. So Brian D asks a good, interesting question. If you go up 3-1 in Boston, do you bring Forbort in Boston?
No.
So if you,
Hey, first of all, there was a shout out to Jonathan Girard. I actually played with him in Providence.
where was that? I missed this.
Jonathan Girard's McKeel Donato at 1034, just above Manny Paul Walker.
You played with Jonathan? Oh, that's awesome.
Jonathan Girard was a second-round pick in probably 1998, just ahead of Bobby Allen. Could skate like the wind, had a rocket, maybe played 100 games in the National Hockey League. He was actually really tough too. I think, and when he ended up playing for the Bruins, was smaller on the back end, so he would kill penalties as forward. He was unbelievable skater, great guy too. So Jonathan Girard, you're out there. Hello, how are you doing?
That's awesome. I
love
that.
I would take him in the lineup right now.
Yeah, it sounds like he would be a perfect fit. It sounds like he would be great. I saw Johnny Boychuk in the comments. Someone said, get Johnny Boychuk on the power play.
I played with Johnny Boychuk in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Did you really? I didn't know you played with Boychuk.
Good human. Johnny Boychuk, good human. Would I slot Forbort back in? Absolutely not. And here's why. If you're thinking, oh, we're up 3-1, let's just get him back out there, get him some minutes. No way, no chance. Right? You tried. I'm not gonna. No reference to last year. Just win the game. Win the games that are ahead of you. Continue to put out your best lineup. That's all I'm gonna ask that you do. Right? Like don't slot someone in because you think you can get them time. If you think Forbort's is your best lineup, get him in game 4. Who cares about going up 3-1? Like if you think he kills penalties the best, right? Like he's a great shot blocker. I just think under pressure, it's going to be difficult. You're not going to complete many passes there. It's going to be a lot of chips up off the glass. It's going to be hard for him to retrieve pucks even when healthy. So for me, I'm slotting Grzelcyk back in, taking Lohrei out, and you roll with the bottom pair of Shattenkirk and Wotherspoon.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I think that's if they do anything, it's probably that. Because I agree. Thrusting Forbort back in. If they feel he's fully ready, then sure. But I mean, I don't know. Like we'll see. We'll see what happens on that. So we talked a lot on D. Let's go back up front. Jake DeBrusk. What does he have? 3 power play goals in 3 games.
He does.
Defensively, I thought again tonight he was solid. He makes, strong plays, second effort plays. I think he's been good. He plays like a guy who is due for a new contract. Like I saw someone in there be like, can we sign DeBrusk to 8 times 5.5? Don't think I'm there yet. Don't even think I'm really close, but I think you have to be happy with what you're getting from him. And I saw someone else in the comments say like DeBrusk has played well enough to earn a promotion up to that line with Zacha and Pastrnak. And that line at 5-on-5, I don't think was very good. I think they were outchanced. They're outchanced 6-10 at 5-on-5, which is not great. They've done a pretty good job at shutting Pastrnak down 5-on-5, but DeBrusk has given it to you, at least on the power play, and him, Coyle, and Marchand work together great. On that power play. So, I mean, again, like you have to be happy with what you've gotten from Jake DeBrusk.
No, I think he's someone that's capable of playing many, many different games, right? Like he's capable of playing a speed game. I think at times he thinks he's a skill player, which he can do. Right? Like when he's at his best, he's skating, right? He can be a little bit physical, and he has enough skills to make plays in offensive end and off the rush. And you're getting a little bit of that from him right now, especially 5-on-5. You'd like to see him generate more 5-on-5, but that might be a byproduct of right, like Bruins not breaking out the way that they would like to, not having plays in transition. But He's been great so far on the power play. That's obviously a huge goal to start that third period. And yeah, you as a Bruins fan, anytime that Jake DeBrusk is productive, you are happy. And Bruins fans should be happy with his game right now, because when he has confidence, he's a much better player.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think he's all. I think I said it. Or Bell Frazier might have said this on Bruins Beat this week. Jake DeBrusk is always the X factor. Like if he goes, the Bruins go, because he's just that kind of player. And if you can get production from a guy like him, typically you do okay. And I think he's been a vital part of this team through 3 games of this series, and he does well against the Leafs. Like, that's just a thing he's good at. He's always been a guy who's good against the Leafs, especially in the postseason, and I think you're seeing more of that. And again, like, I saw Pete Blackburn tweet this. I said this to you after game 2. There are plays he makes that that are effective defensively, where he will save a goal or he will make a huge play around the net. He'll come down low and he's responsible. And I mean, he's been a guy who plays PK and all that stuff, but I think we don't talk enough about how he is impactful in his own zone. And so I think he's been that through 3 games. So that's been an encouraging thing too.
Yeah. And I think it's that level of engagement that you don't get all the way through the regular season, that comes and goes for him. And here in a playoff series, I think that he's someone that it's elevated his game at both ends of the rink. Now you're looking for more 5-on-5 production for him, because you're not going to be able to go throughout a 7-game series and be able to rely on your power play any given night to give you a lead or get a crucial goal. So more from him in there, but he's been great thus far.
He has. Lou on the Maple Leafs. You know who I think has taken the biggest beating in this series, just like in terms of hits, getting taken down. He scored tonight, but Matthew Nyes, that kid is taking a beating. I mean, even in game 1, just getting nailed. And I'm not saying he's like playing bad. I'm just saying, like, he's getting hit a lot, and the Bruins are targeting him a fair amount, and you can tell he's a fresh face kind of guy out there. He scored tonight. And I did see Sheldon Keefe move Robertson up at one point to play with Marner and Tavares. So, like, you know, I haven't seen the post-game comments. I don't know if anybody asked him about that tonight. But I think for the Leafs, you get Marner on the board, at least with a point. I think that's important. And it was a nice pass, because you're big on Marner. So you've been kind of surprised by Marner in this series, right?
I'm a huge... And I think it goes back to, and I said this after game 2, it goes back to a few, right? Like some of the initial series with Toronto. I think that one shift in particular at the end of a game, like him blocking multiple shots. And I'm a huge Mitch Marner guy. This has been disappointing. Like as a fan of Mitch Marner myself, watching him play through the first 3 games has been disappointing. And then on the flip side, having now more of an appreciation for the game that Austin Matthews has, like 70% again tonight in the faceoff circle, right? Like I don't think I had an appreciation for his defensive game. Like, I understand that he's not going to be overly physical in the likes of, right, like, dare I say it, Bruins fans, like a Patrice Bergeron, like that type of defensive player, but he's capable of scoring 70 goals in the National Hockey League and winning 70% of his faceoffs in a playoff series. I Maple Leafs fans took him for granted, and I don't think I ever spent the time watching his well-rounded game, and that's been kind of new to me, and just a disappointment with Marner. Like, I think Toronto played well and has played really well in this series. And like we said after game 2, with limited participation from Mitch Marner, like, I don't like, if you go back and you watch the power play goal, he's on the wrong, like, I don't know. I don't want to say wrong side of the puck, because they're probably trying to prevent in that scrum the puck going to the point. But he could be sitting right on top of Marchand. Then Marchand takes the puck off the wall, and it doesn't even lend a stick it doesn't even lend a stick to Marchand getting a shot off and then kind of drifts back to the net, and then it goes in the net, and it's like, oh my gosh, what just happened? Well, there was no effort from you there. A lot of plays at what he's really good at are these zone entries. He's gaining zone entries, and then plays are dying. So I don't know what's going on there. I think I've seen over the course of our 3 times together that Maple Leafs fans have said I shouldn't be surprised, but I guess I really am, and I'm hoping as a Mitch Martin fan and a hockey fan that he starts to get going in the series a little bit, because I appreciate watching him play, but yeah, on the other side of that, just a new appreciation for who Austin Matthews is as a well-rounded player.
He's going to get Selke votes. I was reading in the Athletic, rankings and just the advanced stats on guys for the Norris, the Selke, the Vezina. Like, I think Matthews was like on their ranking, like 4th or 5th. Now, granted, he does get a lot of ozone starts, and Tavares shoulders a lot of the defensive load, but still, like, Matthews is effective at both ends. He's a 200-foot center, and he's, as you said, he's great on draws. He's got a wicked shot, all that. And, he was held mostly in check tonight. Again, obviously, Bertuzzi gets that goal. Speaking of the Leafs, well, obviously we're only speaking of the Leafs, really. Ilya Samsonov. And this was something that we said after game 2, like, you've got to put shots on this guy. You've got to shoot the puck. And when Frederick comes in and just kind of slips one past Samsonov, I don't know if Samsonov, I'd have to go back and watch it, but I don't know if he was distracted what was going on with Bertuzzi and Marchand. I don't know if he thought they were going to blow the whistle, because those two were just going at it in neutral ice, which thankfully for the Bruins, they didn't blow the whistle. Or was he just kind of, was he off his angle? That was just a simple little wrist shot from the top of the circle that he just let go past him. And I think, you see it, the rebound control isn't really there. There's some good saves. I'm not like, there have been some really good saves he's had over the last 2 games, especially, but like, the opportunity is there. And that's why, like, coming out of game 2, the Bruins needed to pepper him. And, again, like, Marchand's power play, or not power play goal, Marchand's 3rd goal, the winner, was just a snipe, but that's from right in front of the net. DeBrusk's power play goal was going to the net, and that was from Marchand just throwing a shot on net. And then that first goal is just a shot on net from the circle. And I think it just goes to show, like, shoot the puck on this guy. Like, that's my biggest thing. Like, shoot the puck, and they did it better tonight. So I think that was at least encouraging for the Bruins.
Okay. It's been going around on the internet. Do you remember Andrew Ferentz's commercial about shoot the puck? Hey, I never would have. It's a sarcastic commercial. It is Andrew Ferentz talking to all the fans out there. He's saying, I would never have known to shoot the puck if you didn't let me know.
I remember this. Yes.
All right, so that's who you are, Evan, right now.
I am.
The puck.
I am the people in the balcony that just scream, like, shoot anytime a player has the puck on their stick in the offensive zone on a power play. Like, like, I when like up in the press box at the Garden, like, you're above the balcony. So, like, when, like, if Pastrnak just has the puck on his stick for a split second, it's just like every fan in the balcony is like, shoot, and you can hear it, and it's great. So that was me in game 3, like, shoot the puck, just shoot it. So, at least they did it a little bit more.
Yeah, so they listened to you in the 3rd period, right?
I had they were listening. They were hearing me in my living room, like, come on, what are you doing? And it's also like instinctual. I say the same thing with the Leafs. Like, if you have an open shot, take it. Like, it's just like, what are you doing trying to go for the perfect shot? And I've said it 1,000 times. I don't mind. I don't mind going for high danger chances. Yes, Jock Jazz, the puck needs to be shot sometimes. I don't mind going for high danger chances. But, again, like, against a guy like Samsonov, who has had his struggles, like, just get the puck on net.
Yeah, and right, like you say, you're not a hockey guru, but they certainly have Bob Essenza. he writes his scouting report on.
I'm not a
Samsonov.
goalie guru. I am a hockey guru. You
Yeah,
said you're not a
exactly.
hockey guru. I'm a goalie. I mean, I am a hockey guru. I'm just not a goalie guru. There's a difference.
Yeah, no, but like Bob Essenza's in there that gives their his scouting report, and I guarantee they made adjustments after the Frederick goal itself. I think right, you saw an emphasis on getting shots with traffic around the net in the third period. And my guess, and I could be completely wrong, but my guess moving forward is that's going to be the game plan. Put as much pressure on Toronto's D, get the puck up high, and have traffic around Samsonov, and force them to make saves under pressure. That'll be key to success for them.
And I think it's getting to those rebounds. And you saw it on the DeBrusk power play goal, and I think that's a recipe for success. You mentioned like low to high, get pucks through, get bodies in front of him, and get rebounds. There was one. Oh, I think it might have been in the first period. Might have been the first. I didn't write it down, but like Samsonov was sort of unaware where the puck was, and I think it was either Zacha or Pastrnak had an open shot, and it would have went in because Samsonov just didn't like pick up that it was to his left, and I think it was blocked by Jake McCabe. Someone could have.
That was Pastrnak.
Back and find it. It was Pastrnak.
The one when McAvoy tries to wrap it around.
Yes, that was the one. And Samsonov just completely lost track of it. Like it's those kinds of things I think that you need to go for. And I think the other element of it is that's how the Leafs have to score too. Because like Swayman's not letting shots in right now. That second goal, I think, is how they have to score. You just got to throw the puck on Swayman and hope it hits someone in front, or hope you get a greasy rebound. But even he's stopping the greasy rebounds. Like that's the other thing is Swayman is just so locked in right now. Do we want to have the conversation again about who starts game 4? We haven't done it in 50 minutes.
No. Swayman game 4. I think the one thing you got to be concerned about, especially if trends, you took 5 penalties tonight, 5-3.
Yeah, Bruins fans might disagree if you took them or if they were. We haven't complained about the refs yet.
You shouldn't complain about refs, right? Like, let's be fair. I'll be fair. Was it Lyubushkin's cross check on Lauko in the first game that led to a power play goal? Right, like after a whistle.
No, was that the second game? Oh yes, no, you're right. Because then the second McCabe cross checked.
McCabe on Lauko then.
McCabe on Lauko was in game 2.
All right, so that's not a penalty. Low rise cross check today is not a penalty, but don't get all huffy about what other penalties could you get huffy about? Like McAvoy is that extra roughing. He finishes the hit and then it's a forearm shiver to the face. Like
I didn't think that was a penalty. I didn't.
So it could go either way, right?
Yeah, but it's the playoffs. You got because this was in line with what you just this is in line with what you just said about those cross checks, right? Like you let that go in the playoffs. Like you let that hit go McAvoy made at the blue line in the playoffs. The one that I thought this wasn't a penalty or shouldn't have been called at least because again it was a physical chippy game. Things are going to happen. Like, I think it was Pastrnak hooked Yarncroke on a zone entry. Now, He did impede him. I'm not saying he didn't. But, like, that stuff happens on every play. Like, why that? Why are you calling that? So, that was sort of my thing. Is like, in the regular season are those penalties? Like, probably. But in a playoff game like that where it's just physical and gritty and chippy, let that go. Let them play. Let the boys play. So, that's my gripe with that. Again, there was that missed high stick from Tavares on McAvoy that I think that was in like the first period. So I think a lot of people kind of go back to that. But again, I'll give the jacket. Were you listening to Nesson or ESPN?
I was listening to Nesson.
Well, it's true because it's Jack's final days calling games, so you gotta tune into that.
Yeah.
But I was listening to that, and I got a kick out of Jack being like, the Bruins are going 4-9, the 5 Maple Leafs on the ice and then the 4 officials. I got to kick it. Like Jack is just in postseason form, which is great. But I mean, again, I'll give the Bruins credit. Calls went against them tonight and they overcame it. So like, that's my takeaway on that. Refs go back and forth. Refs go back and forth.
Yeah, I think people forget too. They're human as well. Right? Like, so does some of home crowd get into their head at times? Sure, but I think they made up for it. I think that McAvoy penalty at the end on Tavares makes up for a few things that went by. Someone asked about the Marchand elbow to Bertuzzi's head. Did you catch that during the game?
Did your TV have the Marchand elbow to the head shot by Marchand on Bertuzzi? I didn't see that, so I can't make a decision on that. I didn't see it on Twitter even. So like, I mean, I'm not it probably happened, but I have not seen it. So I
didn't catch it either. So I just want to be fair both ways.
No chance the Nesson broadcast is showing that.
They definitely didn't have it.
Chance. No way. That's why we didn't see it. But again, I think, again, the Leafs had every opportunity on the power play and they went 0 for 5. Like, I think that's another thing of like, the Bruins PK is good, but the Leafs power play has not been good over the last 2 months. And you saw it again, like, special teams could end up being the difference in the series where it's like the Leafs have all these chances on the power play and do not convert. Now, Swayman played great. Swayman played outstanding and they got chances, but you got to bury him. Like, I think that's the biggest thing. So,
Yeah, I think that save he makes, that must have been second period off to the right on Austin Matthews. The puck kind of gets kicked out to Matthews, who's in position, and it is kind of almost goes 6-hole sneaking through his blocker, but he makes a huge save on Matthews. At some point, though, like you don't want to continue to take penalties against the Maple Leafs because if they get one, then they can get multiple, and I don't want to see that happen. So regardless if it is a lack of discipline or referees calling too many penalties, they've got to figure out a way to stay out of the box.
Yeah. Okay. So this is interesting. Let's get into this.
Okay.
So I'm just looking at Twitter. So I'm getting into the quotes that are coming out of the locker room. Sheldon Keefe on Brad Marchand. There's not another player in this series who gets away with taking out Bertuzzi's legs the way he does. It's an art, Keefe adds, of Marchand's ability to draw penalties and get calls, and he's elite at it. That's a big statement. This is when you know the series is legit, right? Like, this is when you know it's getting really down to it. And first of all, I think the reason Keefe says that is to, typically when a coach work the ref, like that's a big one.
Yeah.
I'm guessing he's talking about the empty netter. So I don't know if you saw this, but Marchand kind of went under Bertuzzi. Yeah. And then I think he's also talking about Frederick's goal. So working the refs on that. I would also say like Marchand's a vet. Like, that's the thing. It's sort of he's good at it, of course, but also like you do get a little leeway. Now, obviously Marchand has had a lot of run-ins with the league, so he's not exactly in their good graces.
Yeah, I can't see him getting much leeway, right?
But as a vet captain, I think there's some things that they might
let him get away with.
But yeah, okay. Kind of let him get away with. Did you play with Marchand in Providence or no?
No, I played against him. I was in Springfield when it would have been his rookie year in Providence, and he was just one of those players. And I didn't come across a ton of them where you just knew he was going to make it. I'd never seen anyone that's ever played with his pace and energy for a 60-minute game as a rookie. And right, he got his 20 game stint maybe that year, but you still knew that maybe you didn't see an 80, 90 point guy coming, but I had never played anyone that took every shift so serious in my career. It was just evident that he was not going to be denied in his journey to the National Hockey League. It was impressive watching. I think he would have been 20 years old to watch him play shift in, shift out in Providence.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that about how just like driven he was and how I was like, all right, this guy's going to find a way. And obviously he has. More comments on Marchand. Matthew Nyes. He wants to get under our skin and influence the refs. So I think we've just got it to be composed and not kind of get into that bullshit. Just play hard and make them less effective. We can swear on this technically. So that can fly. Yeah. Keep it clean a little, but we can. Connor and I sometimes start swearing and,
so stop. If you know that he's there to get under your skin, Why is the head coach mentioning it?
I know, that's the big one. Like, it's coming.
Yeah, you
it's
work,
there.
you work the ref while you're on the bench. Like, you're not going to do it through the media. It's not like the referee's going to listen. You'd be like, oh, I need to listen to Sheldon Keefe now. Like that, all you're doing is you're allowing that to fester with your team. Brad Marchand's a good player that's got under players' skins for the entirety of his career. We got to shut him down, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else to say about him. If he crosses the line, the National Hockey League has proven that they will fine him, that they will suspend him. They'll take care of it if they have to, but not worth mentioning in the media, at least on the. Like, I get it. Sometimes emotions run high from the players, and it's going to get talked about. But don't, as a head coach, don't allow that to be even a tidbit that's in their head.
No, I agree. I have to, take this victory lap. Evan was right about the Bruins dominating special teams. Leonard Esser could have yelled that over from the room over, but he's just commenting that on this, which I love. All the comments I've seen so far are Brad Marchand. I haven't seen any comments from the Bruins dressing room. Again, there aren't as many Bruins media there, so I think they're just.
What are they
I have
doing?
not seen.
Where are the Bruins media?
Well, that's on the outlets for not sending them.
Okay.
That's what I mean. Like, it's not them. Like, it's it's got to be more of a push from the outlets to send people.
Okay.
So again, that's an interesting thing, though. I mean, this is where the Leafs are trying to turn the series. I think they realize that, as we said, 2-1, game 3, going into game 4. This is where, Bruins can land the knockout punch potentially in game 4 if they can go up 3-1. You can kind of get a little more control of the series by calling out a guy like Marchand and hopefully alerting the officials to him, even though the refs are very well aware of Brad Marchand. But again, like, I think Marchand's impact on the game tonight was crazy. You just think about, like, and we talked about this at the start of the show, but there's a lot more people on now, so we can kind of revisit it. Like, you look at the play on Frederick's goal. You look at just, his shot that led to DeBrusk's goal. You look at, and by the way, I can't believe I haven't mentioned this. I tweeted it, and it's just coming into my brain, and I forgot about it. Did you see the zone entry Brad Marchand had? I tweeted it if people want to go back and look. The zone entry he had from his own bench with, I think it was Kemp on him, dangling him, patient, and then found a way into the offensive zone and made a nice saucer pass over to, I think, Pasternak, or I forget who it was. It was on a power play on the right side. And that was the sequence that started the goal that DeBrusk scored. Like, to me, like, just such a good game from him. And, I saw, like, Tony Maserati tweeted out, like, oh, Brad Marchand looks old after the first period. Like, people were starting to get on him on Twitter and stuff. But I mean, just the way he came through for you in that game cannot be understated. Whether it be getting under the Leafs skin or just the score sheet. Like, that's one of the best postseason games I've seen from Brad Marchand in a long time. And he's had some pretty strong ones.
Wow. I mean, that's a bold statement. Marchand's played really well over the course of his career. I think for the first period and a half, he was non-existent, and I agree with that.
Well, yes.
Yeah, so I think if we're talking impact, I think you're certainly the Bertuzzi goal. Like, that's the two of them getting locked up. I don't know whether he takes away Samsonov's focus, but the impact was in the third period, and he came out to dominate that period and to kind of put the Bruins on his back and show them. I don't want to say show them, but I think it was within him where he was like, I need to play better. I need to show this team how we're going to win this game, and that's what he went out and did.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just, like, you're right. And I said this, the first half was not outstanding from him completely. But I just think the way he came through in that second half of that game was, that's why he's captain. Like, it's plays like that. It's getting under the skin like that. And then that's snipe. Like, that was just such a quick release in tight. And again, but that was all made possible by Frederick and Heinen. I mean, that was a phenomenal sequence by them. So again, like it's gutsy plays like that. It's why the Bruins are up 2-1 in this series after tonight. Like I thought when the Leafs scored first, it's like there's no way. There's no way the Bruins win this game. You know, the Leafs had it a little bit more in the first half of that game, especially after the first period. But then the Bruins had a pretty, like they responded well to that Nyes goal, I thought. And, you know, from there, kind of had control as much as this Bruins team can have control of a game.
Yeah, I gotta tell viewers might get a view of my house at this point because my computer's running out of battery.
You don't plug it in?
The way I set it up at my house, I want to at least look like I have a professional chair that is somewhere here. And I don't currently have an outlet.
Well, you know what I'll do? I'll take you off and I can talk, and then you can plug it in,
Okay.
and then we can. So I'll remove you for a quick second
All
off
right,
of
good.
Off of here. Hopefully that works. There we go. So I don't think they can hear me. So it's now me. It's just me. As Carl goes and gets a computer charger because he doesn't plug it in for some reason. I do. I always plug my computer. Are you good now? You're plugged in?
Yeah, I'm plugged in.
Oh, there we go. See, that took
look
like
at
2
that.
seconds.
Look at this view. This is Framingham, Massachusetts, right here, Evan.
That's great. I love that. That's a terrific view. That's great. This is our longest post-game show ever.
It's just my face, right? Just my face right now. This is everything that I ever wanted was my face on a podcast.
That's all that matters. This is what it's your whole life has led to this moment. Which is great. Lucky you.
Yeah.
But you know, I like, so let's do this. Ready?
Yep.
I asked this after game 2.
Okay.
Has your view on the series shifted after game 3?
Not much. I think after game 2, I said 7. I said Boston. I still think I will say that Toronto is a much better team than I gave them credit for. I thought defensively there was a huge advantage that Boston had, like the actual defenseman. I don't think that's the case, right? Obviously, McAvoy, Riley, both great players. I thought that there was more depth for Boston with Carlo Lindholm. I think that hasn't played. I think Toronto defensively in limiting opportunities for the Bruins to play 5-on-5 with the way that they've broken out. I still think they did that tonight. I think it stretches of the game, especially in the second period. I think Toronto dictated pace of play. I think some of that was Bruins' lack of a forecheck, and now whether that's a lack of a forecheck or just Toronto doing a great job on the breakout, but Toronto's a better team than I thought. And I think this is going to be I think this might come down to a game 7.
I agree with you. I don't, but I will also say, like, my view of this series has not shifted. Some people got on me for having that same answer after game 2 when the Bruins lost, and they were like, "Oh, Evan's being too soft on them," or I saw someone say I was disingenuous for kind of being like, "Oh, it's the Bruins are going to lose a couple games in this series." Like, Toronto made the necessary adjustments. The Bruins will make the necessary adjustments going into game 3, and that's pretty much what happened. I saw a comment earlier. The series X factor has been special teams and goaltending.
Yep.
That's really what it's come down to. And the Bruins are winning that battle. I think the Bruins are 5 for 10 on the power play. The Leafs are 1 for 11. Swayman has outplayed Samsonov by a lot. Even Omar lost game 2, but still played well. Like, that's what's won them this series. And or not won them, excuse me. Oh my God. Whoa.
Don't do that.
Ooh, it was not a jinx, people. That was a slip up. No big deal. Don't get on me about that. But to me, that's why they're ahead in the series. And I think that's why they look pretty good going into game 4, is because they've won the goaltending battle. They've won special teams. Doesn't mean that's going to hold up, though. I have way more faith in the goaltending holding up than the special teams. At some point, you can't tell me that Leafs power play isn't going to get going.
Yeah.
You can't tell me. And if Nylander comes back, as 6 1/3 just mentioned, like if Nylander comes back, that changes the series too. So like,
can we ask Leaf fans what's going on with Nylander? Like, do we have any idea? Obviously, it's some sort of injury. He's back skating, practicing with Toronto, but where is he at? What was the actual injury? Do we know? Do you know, Evan?
I'd have to go back and look. It's tough because they don't really disclose injuries in the postseason. I've just kind of been seeing he hasn't been playing and that he's always like he's skating, he's skating with the scratches. A lot of different answers with that. I mean, again, I think it just sounds like he's like close to coming back, which again, like what's it going to be? Like, does he come back for game 4? I'd have to think if he's even borderline to play, he will be back, whether it's game 4 or 5. Like if the Leafs go down 3-1, I think he's got to be in for game 5, I would think. So some people are saying, like Paul Bissonnette said, head injury on Chicklets. Again, I don't know, but 6 1/3. So this is right. He hasn't missed a game. He hadn't missed a game, I don't think, since 2016.
Wow.
I saw. So now he's missed 3 in a row. So clearly must be something.
Yeah.
But like my guess is that you'd try to force him back in. But if it is a head injury, then like this, you can't force someone back in with a head injury.
You can't put it with a head injury at all.
That's not going to work.
No.
But yeah, I mean, to me, like, has my feelings on the series changed? No, it hasn't, because like I had Bruins in 6. I still feel it's like I still would stand by that. And it's kind of, the series is playing out a little bit like I thought it would. The only area where it isn't is I thought the Bruins could really get 5-on-5 scoring going with the way the Leafs D were, and like even tonight. So like Marchand's goal was a 5-on-5. Fredericks was a 5-on-5 goal. That's wild, but it was a 5-on-5 goal. And then like, those were the 2. So that, what do they have, 4 in 3 games? But then you have those power play goals. So, I think that their power play's activated. I think that's where they've made the difference. So no, I wouldn't go off of, I wouldn't go like, oh, it's not Bruins in 6 anymore. But
Bruins in 6. Okay.
Yeah, I'm still with that. And I like, if depends how the Leafs come out in game 4, obviously if they like dominate or something like that, then maybe you change it. But
so you're gonna sit on the fence every game?
No. I'm sticking with Bruins at 6. I'm not moving off Bruins at 6.
You just said if they come out and dominated the next game that you would.
No. I was about to say if they come out and dominate the next game, then I'll see where I'm at then. But yeah. I'm not gonna 100%. I'm not gonna be like, oh, if they dominate the next game, I'm off Bruins at 6. Maybe the Bruins win 2 games in a row if the Leafs win game 4, and then the Bruins win 5 and 6. Who knows? But yeah, no, we try our best not to fence it, even though I fenced it quite a bit throughout a playoff series.
Well, I think I said Bruins in 6 at the start. I'm going to go with Bruins in 7 here.
Okay, I respect that.
Yeah, I just think Toronto's is too good, and I think that power play will get going in the series. It's going to. They're going to get some calls at home on Saturday night. I think they'll obviously come out with a lot more energy, again, be physical early in that game. Maybe you see a little bit more of that fourth line, and their power play will capitalize. The only thing that I can't account for is where does Mitch Marner fit into this all? Like what player are you going to get? He's still, I keep saying it every game. When he decides to show up, it's a different series, but I can't keep saying that. Now it's 3 games in and he hasn't showed up, and that's why Toronto's down 2-1. You
might be jinxing him. Leafs fans maybe shouldn't like you. You might be the one that's jinxing Mitch Marner. Because
I hope I'm not. No,
I legit every game.
Here's the thing: there aren't many players like in the National Hockey League. I enjoy watching a few players. Cale Makar is like at the top.
Same.
Obviously, I think to have an elite defenseman that looks like that, enjoy watching him play the game of hockey. I've always been a Sidney Crosby and Patrick Kane fan. The Patrick Kane's the unadulterated skill level. Sidney Crosby's the do whatever it takes to kind of win. I enjoyed watching Mitch Marner play and have enjoyed watching him play and have defended him to my St. Mark's players who say that Austin Matthews is so much better than Mitch Marner. Now I to go back in and say to them that I was wrong is going to hurt me personally. So I want him to show up. It's not, I really hope I'm not jinxing him.
No, you're probably not. A couple more quotes, interesting quotes out of the dressing room. I had them on my phone. I got to put them back up. So I don't know if you caught this when Swayman got knocked into by Domi. That was a great one.
Yeah.
Swayman flopped a little bit on that. That was great, you know. But anyway, Swayman on Domi. So Swayman said this about Domi. He said he was just skating. I was skating. I told Emily I had to do some more push-ups, so I'm gonna go work on that tonight. So that was that. But then this is a really interesting Swayman quote. Does Jeremy Swayman believe he's done enough to break the rotation and start game 4? Here is what he said. Never. I'm never going to expect anything. I'm going to earn it. So it's all I care about. And that's what you want your starting goalie to say, I think, in a situation like that. You don't want to be like, yeah, I'm screw the rotation. I'm starting the next game. Like, no, I think he says the right thing there. I think he has the right mindset. He's really Swayman is so chill. Like you can see him on the broadcast, like laughing after like a crazy sequence. Like it is. I remember when he was at Maine and he would come to UMass, like he'd be in front of that UMass student section. It's a big student section. They'd be heckling him. He'd go over and like do stuff with them. Like they kind of loved him. But again, like I think you do want to hear that out of one of your goalies. And, you know, I think he's done more than enough to break the rotation. I think they should break the rotation for this because it's just continued, and he's continued to beat the Leafs. So I think you have to stick with him. You have to.
Yeah, I think you go with him on the road. I mean, it's a broken record for me. I think you put him in, you know that Toronto's going to come out and push the pace and shoot the puck and create as many chances as you can. Give him the opportunity with back-to-back games to steal you one game. And if you can steal that game in Toronto and go up 3-1, and that's going to be a tall task, but I think you feel really good about where you are leaving Toronto. And I think that's a right. Like if you're Toronto, you lose both at home and you've got to go back to Boston for a game 5. That's hard. I know right now that I've got a hot hand. I think he's proven in 2 games that he's been really good. I think you go right back to him in game 4 in Toronto and you see what he can do.
And if he wins game 4, you'd have to start him game 5. Like you'd have to, right? Like,
yeah, I don't think you can take anything. I don't think you can take any games for granted in the playoffs. Now, that doesn't mean that in game one of whatever the next series potentially could be that you couldn't go back to him. But I don't think you're in the business of taking games for granted in the playoffs, and especially on the road against a really talented team. And I think that's kind of what I was talking about at the beginning. The Bruins organization showed that they wanted to put out their best lineup tonight, or what they thought was their best lineup, and they were really urgent. They pulled Grzelcyk from the line and thought that he wasn't good enough. Right now, you've got a goalie that's shown you he's at the top of his game. And at the top of his game, Swayman could be one of the better goalies in the National Hockey League. Put him right back in there.
Yeah.
Put him back in and see what happens.
Yeah. I'm fine with it. And I think he can handle it. And I think the way he's playing, you've got to just you got to ride him for right now. And I think even worst case scenario, right? Like, let's say he wins game 4, but he has a stinker in game 5, right? Like, I still think, you could put Linus Ullmark into game 6. Or you can make the argument that you just ride with Swayman. But I think, for the rotation's sake, if you start Swayman 3 in a row and he does not look good in that game 5, I'm fine with them going to Ullmark in game 6 in that scenario, but that's a long way away. that's a long way away.
Absolutely.
It is a long way away. So again, like I feel good about where the Bruins are at, but I still think the Leafs have another win or 2 in them, like I think that's a fair assessment based off where this series is at. And, can the Bruins get more 5-on-5 scoring going? One final thing. I mean, would you stick with this same forward lineup? Like, would you change the lines? Would you put Heinen back with Zacha and Pastrnak? I mean, I don't know.
I think the one thing that I would take a look at is, and so let me be clear. I thought Van Riemsdyk, for the amount that he played, he brought you something tonight.
I agree.
I wasn't a big fan of the change because I thought, why, when you're playing against a Maple Leafs, a team that's pretty quick, why would you put someone like Van Riemsdyk back in? The one thing I would take a look at is Pat Maroon and potentially pulling him out. I just think too slow. Right, like certainly wins his wall battles, and if you're gonna chip pucks off the glass, like he can win those. I just think the effectiveness of trying to get in on the forecheck, finish your hits. Right, like obviously an older guy coming off of, he had back surgery, right? Like I think that's a really difficult task for him to continue to play the way he does, or needs to play to be effective. I think this series is a little bit fast for him.
It is. You're talking about Maroon, right?
Yeah.
Because I was just looking, Swayman. So this Ty Anderson tweeted this. Swayman post game. Personally, I don't want rest. I just want to keep playing. So, and that was in response to Emily Benjamin asking him about whether he feels he's done enough to earn a second straight start. So that was, I think, either before or after he made the comment I made to you before. I'm never going to expect anything. I'm going to earn it. That's all I care about. But that's an interesting tidbit. Personally, I don't want rest. I just want to keep playing. He's that hot right now. Like, I mentioned earlier the extra days off would do him well. Like Gucci mentions that there, but maybe it wouldn't. Like maybe he just wants to keep rolling with it. So I don't know. Kevin Walker brings up an interesting thing. Would you move Lauko in for Pat Maroon?
Yeah, if I want someone to come in and forecheck, understanding that he's not going to make many plays with the puck, but I think he puts a lot of pressure on Toronto's defense. He's feisty, gets into the mix a little bit, good at flopping as well. Need those penalties every now and again. So sure, Lauko in. I just think brings more pace, more energy to the game. Right, like obviously Maroon has won his Stanley Cups. I just think it'd be good for him to get a little bit of rest. That doesn't mean that he won't be back in the lineup at some point, but I wouldn't put him back in on game 4.
He was shot out of it, as Mello said, he was shot out of a cannon in game 1. Like that was like just so good in game 1, or at least for what his role is. And then game 2 kind of fell off a little bit. In game 3, I didn't notice him as much tonight. I mean, I guess the one positive is like when Reeves is out there just hitting everybody. And there was that one sequence in the first where that Reeves line, like Benoit crushed Pasternak and then Reeves crushed Zaka.
Yep.
And it was like, all right, this could kind of get out of hand a bit. You know that you have Maroon there, but I don't know if it's enough to keep him in the lineup over someone like Lauko if you're looking for a hard forechecking line that's going to kind of pin teams deep. So, I think Lauko.
Yeah, and in playoff hockey, like fighting's not a big part of it, and I don't
know.
I mean, and right, like Reeves is at the top of his game as far as the fighting's concerned. He's the best in the National Hockey League, and I don't think Maroon wants to get into a situation where, like, he certainly would do it, but I mean, that's. Do you know I played with Ryan Reeves too in Peoria?
Did you really?
Illinois? Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Oh man, that was a miserable experience. Not from the opportunity to play with Ryan Reeves, but this was my last year in the American League. I got traded from Edmonton's organization to St. Louis's organization. I was living in a hotel in Peoria, Illinois. I mean, outside of the fact that they had a good buffet and they had a genuinely happy hour there. So it was just a tough place at where I was in my life. It's a really interesting story. And this is for a different podcast, but I had a really interesting training camp in Edmonton where I will tell people out there, I got cut after an optional skate. It was hilarious.
I didn't know this.
Oh man, that's the greatest story in my life. We had just done. You had to do testing, physical testing on day 1, right? So we throw the med ball, we do the jumps, everyone pokes and prods us, you ride the bike, and then there's an optional skate. And I'm like, I think at that point I played 19 games in the National Hockey League. I don't have the option not to skate in the optional skate. So I go out for the optional skate, and it's just like a glorified scrimmage. And I come back in, and there's literal, you talk about a whiteboard. There's a whiteboard in the room, and there are 2 numbers on it. And mine was one of them. I was like, oh my word. Like, I just cut from an optional skate. I go into the meeting with the general manager and assistant general, and they had no idea who I was. They were like shuffling papers around, and we're sitting, and this is not an exaggeration, 2 minutes of silence. And then at one point you could see them, they trying to whisper to each other, it's Carl Corazzini. And I'm like, I'm right here. And so I got sent home. I fly from Edmonton to Minnesota, and I get a call from my agent. They made a mistake, Carl. They meant to, which is a lie. But I had to fly home. It went Minnesota to Springfield, Mass, drove to Framingham. The next day I had to turn around, go to Springfield, fly out of Springfield back to Edmonton. Now, I played in a bunch of preseason games because they felt bad for me, but it was,
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a great story.
Wow. I've not heard that story. There's a lot of stories I have not heard.
Yeah, and that's a long way of saying I played with Ryan Reeves, and my roommate in the Embassy Suites in Peoria, Illinois was Alex Petriangelo.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yep.
I
think things have turned out pretty well for him.
I was gonna say things worked out well for him. So
yeah, you say nice smile. I never wore a mouth guard either. I don't know how.
Yeah, those are great teeth. Those are really good teeth.
I think it was a byproduct of, never fighting and really not mixing it up all that much. So
well, you were you did it right. You did it right.
Yeah, I did.
So now you look good for this. So that's all that matters. Those are awesome. So you have to drop some stories on us every.
Okay, I will every now and again. I got plenty of them.
Hopefully the people. I think people should love those stories. You probably have so many. But again, just to wrap it up with this, again, we're presented by our good friends over at Prize Picks. Use that promo code CLNS, exclusive daily wagering partner of the daily fantasy partner of CLNS. Use that code CLNS to get up to $100 on a first deposit. Again, it's gutsy win, win. You have to be happy with how that went. You have to be happy with where the Bruins are at least at in this series. The power play looks better. The Leafs goaltending has not been terrific. Your goaltending's been great. So I think it's been good. Have we not hit on anything that you feel like we gotta touch on? It's been an hour and a half. Oh
this has been fun.
This has been fun.
I keep saying this. You've got a great following. It's fun to interact with the commenters here, and you've got a blend of Bruins fans and Toronto fans, and that's made this. Well, that's made it an hour and a half tonight.
Yes, it has. This is the highest viewpoint I think we're at. So, which is great. But we'll wrap it up here. We'll have another post-game shows the rest of the way, but we'll have one again Saturday night, 8 p.m. game. So this will be like 12:28 in the morning, but I assume that people will be here, which is great. Bruins win 4-2, lead the series 2-1. That's Carl Corazzini. I'm Evan Marinofsky. We will see you next time, and we'll have a lot of podcasts throughout the week. Thank you all for joining, and we'll see you on Saturday.